Trade unions in Barbados on a collision course with government over layoffs in the public sector. That's our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Thursday, November 1st. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Nicole Best. Good evening. Barbados' largest public sector trade union is threatening to take the Mia Mottley-led administration before the Employment Rights Tribunal over layoffs at some government departments. Deputy General Secretary of the Nation Union of Public Workers, Delcia Burke, is calling on the government to rescind the termination letters issued to workers at the Barbados Agricultural Development and Marketing Corporation, as well as the Rural Development Commission. Burke claims the government breached the Employment Rights Act by not going through the 6-week consultation process with the union. Prime Minister Mottley last month announced that there would be over 1,000 job cuts in the public sector under her government's Economic and Recovery and Transformation Plan. But the union says the manner in which the layoffs are being carried out leaves much to be desired. The NUPW is also cautioning the administration about the effects of retrenchment and what it's having on key government departments. Assistant General Secretary Wayne Waldron says the move is beginning to take a toll on public sector productivity. He says the unions have received complaints that some departments are in a state of chaos because key staff members have been let go. Waldron explained that areas such as the Customs and Excise Department that depend heavily on data entry are seeing a decline in productivity as a result of the reduced manpower.
The clerical officers and customs are not clerical officers in the real sense, maybe in a general service force, but they're actually trained customs officers who are in a specialized discipline. So understanding that they have been found back in customs, and they hope that the revenue authorities will review the customs section, the government can ill afford to lose revenue or have it compromised, and we are insisting that they correct the manpower shortage at the Customs and Excise Department.
The Trinidad and Tobago government is being urged to defer the implementation of property tax for those residents whose homes were destroyed in the recent flooding. The suggestion has come from opposition MP and former Housing Minister Dr. Rudal Munilal, who says there are thousands of citizens struggling to cope with the effects of the recent disaster. Several parts of the Twin Island Republic were left underwater last month.
That type of flooding, it will take years for you to bounce back.
It's the reality facing thousands of citizens affected by recent floods, many still owing for the furniture, cars and appliances destroyed. But one former housing minister says while the government is making concessions for Greenvale residents to defer HDC payments, there are flood victims in other communities who continue to suffer. He's hoping they too would receive the mercy of the state.
And I think the government should strongly consider, in light of this disaster, a further moratorium or suspension of any plan to implement a property tax. At least, I will say at least those persons who clearly have suffered this enormity of damage from the floods.
It has started the month of November in the same manner it ended the previous month, with an earthquake rattling the country. The Seismic Research Center of the St. Augustine campus of the University of the West Indies said an earthquake of magnitude 4.0 rattled parts of the country on Thursday around 4:40 a.m. That's 8:40 a.m. It was the 9th tremor felt in as many days. There were no immediate reports of injuries or damage, but the quake was felt 117 kilometers southeast of San Fernando. That's 124 kilometers southeast of the eastern town of Arima and 145 kilometers southeast of the capital, Port of Spain. Jamaican hoteliers say an investigative story published in the international media this week about sexual assault at some of the country's leading resorts has left some visitors questioning safety measures at the establishments. TVJ's Herman Green reports.
Today confirmed they have been receiving queries from potential visitors about safety measures at the facilities since the USA Today article outlined incidents of sexual assault against several Americans. In a telephone interview with TVJ News, President of the JHTA, Omar Robinson, said would-be visitors have been expressing concern.
A few of our properties have received some queries, only queries, no cancellations, and they have been able to successfully convince the visitors that they are safe, or hotel environment is safe, and they've been able to keep those bookings.
The USA Today article suggested that in some cases where the alleged victims reported the matter to hotel management, the report was either not treated seriously or the management tried to cover up the issue. Mr. Robinson, however, dismissed those suggestions, insisting that the association's members take such matters very seriously.
I do not believe that there was any attempt by the hotels to deceive or to cover up any of these incidences. Usually when there is any of the incidents, they work along with the police, they cooperate with the police, with whatever other local authorities and other stakeholders, usually maybe the embassies get involved, who, we always recommend that they should be informed of any such incidences. Their incidences are of a very sensitive nature, and so, we at all times try to show care and concern to any individual who is involved and also try to protect their identity.
In light of the report and calls, Mr. Robinson says the Jamaica Tourist Board has also been in contact with travel agents and tour operators in an effort to restore the island's name as a safe travel destination.
With almost 4.3 million visitors last year, crimes against visitors is relatively low, and we still pride ourselves on that. We have a 0.01% incident rate.
The USA Today report stated that 78 Americans were sexually assaulted between 2011 and 2017. Despite the calls, Mr. Robinson says it was too early to say whether the sector would suffer any fallouts.
Stay with us. We'll have more news right after this break.
Come and experience exceptional fun. Meet amazing people. Enjoy fantastic food and rock the nights away to world-class music at the 23rd Annual St. Kitts Music Festival. 3 nights of musical entertainment from the 27th to the 29th of June 2019. Book now and save the date. For more information, log on to stkittsmusicfestival.net. St. Kitts Music Festival, an experience like no other.
Welcome back. Antigua and Barbuda celebrated its 37th anniversary of political independence from Britain on Thursday. And Prime Minister Gaston Brown says independence would not be complete without with London still being in the country's the country's judicial system. Residents vote in a referendum on November 6th to decide whether to retain the Privy Council or to make the Trinidad-based Caribbean Court of Justice, the CCJ, the island's final court. In his message, Prime Minister Brown said there are those who are still opposed to the move towards the CCJ, which was established in 2001 and also functioned as an international tribunal interpreting the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas that governs the 15-member region. He said these people that are opposed to the move know full well that remaining with the London-based Privy Council is only going to hinder the justice for citizens, especially ordinary citizens who could not afford to go to the CCJ, to the Privy Council. And so he's encouraging residents, when they vote on the 6th of November, to vote the yes vote. Okay, we apologize for this break, but we want to let you know, going over to Guyana now, that Guyana's Finance Minister Winston Jordan says he foresees more money in the pockets of government employees from the first set of profits the country gets from the oil production. We will get more in that story from the HGP Nightly News report.
For more exploration offshore Guyana, first oil is not due until 2020. An estimated $300 million United States dollars is expected to be raked in that year. With that in mind, Finance Minister Winston Jordan suggested that government workers would receive salary increases when Guyana produces first oil in 2020.
I foresee improvements in the social and economic status of Guyana. All right? I foresee improvements, progressive improvements in the human, cultural, and every other developmental aspect of the country. I know that we have been through lean periods, and for many of us, I don't see too many of us my age, but certainly those who lived through the 80s would have understood what it means about structural adjustment, and to have incomes overnight turn into pennies because of the significant devaluations that we have had.
Minister Jordan was cautious in explaining the rationale behind the possible increase in wages and salaries.
Including everything. But we have to take everything in context. We don't want to have a situation where I give you $2 and you lose $3. Okay? So one of the big things that has to happen is production has to be pulled up. We have to diversify, because otherwise you're going to just go on the internet and you're going to pick up Amazon and somebody else, and and then you're going to be asking for more salary because you have to buy more from Amazon and so on. So I think essentially we have to blend productivity with production.
Some 120,000 barrels of oil per day is expected to be produced from Liza Phase 1 alone. That's approximately $6 billion Guyana dollars annually. That sum, as explained by the finance minister, would be deposited into the Sovereign Wealth Fund and some withdrawn for economic development.
We go over to Grenada now, where that country also faces a referendum on November 6th, and there Grenadians are being reminded that while next Tuesday's referendum is not an election, the same rules that apply to voting in an election will be applied. Health Minister Nicholas Steele said that at the weekly press conference that, as in the case on election day in March 13th earlier this year, there is to be no congregating in the polling stations, and citizens are expected to vote in the same polling stations that they voted in for the last general election.
You go vote at the polling station that you would have voted at the last election. So just to clear up, if there's any confusion or misconception, wherever you went to vote in March, on March the 13th, that is where you will go to vote on November 6th. Orderly conduct and of individuals within a polling station area. Most of you will have seen already the marks on the road clearly identifying where polling stations are, and the rules with respect to voting are the same for an election within that polling station area. So the consumption of alcohol.
There is one relaxation of the rules, however. Residents can be allowed to vote even if they do not present their voter registration cards.
Not need to have a voter registration card to vote at a polling station. They must have their name on the list, and they must be identified or recognized by the returning officer or individuals within the polling station who are working for the Election and Boundaries Office. It is safer for individuals to walk with their voter registration card and a form of ID.
Series against India after another record low batting total. Stay with us.
Raped while vacationing in Jamaica. And like a stake to the heart of the tourism industry, it detailed that the incidents happened in
Disaster Emergency Management Agency and the Caribbean Media Corporation. Be prepared. Stay indoors and away from windows during the storm or hurricane.
It's one of the most anticipated events of the year. November 4, get ready for Latin Festival at Free Lawn starting at 3 p.m. Featuring out of Puerto Rico, Sun Divas. Out of Sweet Sugar Sonic St. Kitts, DJ Elvis. From Jamaica, Romain Virgo. And out of Dominican Republic, El Alpha El Jefe. Get your tickets now at Cajola Cristata Limited, online at latinfestival.net. Avalon Lab in the Sands Complex for only $35 EC until October 28 and $55 after. At Uncle Fats, you can get your VIP tickets for only $320 EC until October 15 and $350 after. Limited amount available. Save the date, November 4. Get ready for Latin Fiesta. Sponsored by Cajola Cristata, Hobson Enterprise, St. Kitts Marriott Resort, Caribbean Cinemas, Stag, and Mojitos La Casa de Albano.
Preview. Damian Jr. Gwangmali has another feather in his producer's hat, as he will be the executive producer for the next album of the accomplished Third World Band. The stalwart reggae band recently released Loving You Is Easy, their first single from their upcoming album.
Every wind that blows, every wave that rolls with the coming and going of the tides. Everyone that sees is everyone that knows, because my love can't hide.
The West Indies produced their worst batting performance against India in a one-day international to hand the home side an emphatic 9-wicket win and help them wrap up the 5-match series 3-1 at Greenfield Stadium on Thursday. In what was scheduled to be a day-night contest, India wrapped up the match well before dark after dismissing the Windies for 104 in 31.5 overs. The total was the Windies' lowest ever against India in ODIs, in yet another woeful batting display in which only 3 batsmen got into double figures. The home side, led by a brisk half-century from the informed Rohit Sharma and the unbeaten knock of 33 from captain Virat Kohli, motored to 105 for 1 in 14.5 overs to wrap up the contest even before the scheduled break. Meanwhile, Captain Jason Holder believes if his batsmen had made better shot selections, India would have been chasing a target in excess of 300 rather than the paltry 105 which was required for victory. During the post-match press conference, Holder said he did not believe batting first was the deciding factor in the match. He said, while he was disappointed not to have tied the series, there were some positives to take away despite the loss. Holder said several of the young players had made their presence felt, and he was looking forward to big things from them in the future. Jamaica's Football Federation says it's monitoring sprint legend Usain Bolt's effort at becoming a professional footballer and is willing to select him for Reggae Boys duty once he proves his worth. JFF President Michael Ricketts is quoted as saying that he is disappointed that the legend has not signed up with a Jamaican football club. The 32-year-old Bolt quit track and field following last year's World Championships in London and has spent his time since then attempting to become a footballer while also trying to land a professional contract. There have been question marks surrounding Bolt's quest, however, with several believing his efforts to be nothing but a publicity stunt. Only last week, former Irish international Andy Cugh, who currently plays in the A-League for Perth Glory, slammed Bolt's ability, contending his presence in the league was an affront to the serious professionals plying their trade down under. He's currently mulling over an offer from an A-League outfit, Central Coast Mariners, with whom he has spent the last few months undergoing trial. But Ricketts said he envisioned Bolt becoming an asset to the Reggae Boys once he can improve his skill. Staying in football, Bermudan striker Naki Wells says he's excited at the prospect of facing El Salvador later this month as he ends his self-imposed 3.5-year international exile. Wells knows Bermuda ranked more than 100 places below El Salvador will have their work cut out against their Central American opponents, but hopes to play a pivotal role in the CONCACAF Nations League qualifier at the National Stadium on November 16th. Wells told the Royal Gazette that he's excited to be playing again for Bermuda after a break from international football. He has not played for Bermuda since March 2015 when he captained the island in 2 World Cup qualifying fixtures against Bahamas, scoring 3 goals in the island's 8-0 aggregate win. And that's the sport. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Damian Jr. Gong Mali has another feather in his producer's hat, as he will be the executive producer for the next album of the accomplished Third World Band. The stalwart reggae band recently released Loving You Is Easy, their first single from their upcoming album.
Every wind that blows, every wave that rolls with the coming and going of the tides. Everyone that sees is everyone that knows, because my love came high.
Damian Jr. Gongmali has another feather in his producer's hat, as he will be the executive producer for the next album of the accomplished Third World Band. The stalwart reggae band recently released Loving You Is Easy, their first single from their upcoming album.
Every wind that blows, every wave that rolls with the coming and going of the tides. Everyone that sees is everyone that knows, because my love can't hide.
Barbados' largest public sector trade union threatens to take government before the Employment Rights Tribunal over layoffs. The union is also cautioning the administration about the effects of retrenchment, the effects that the retrenchment, is having on key government departments. And in sport, West Indies produced their worst ever batting performance against India in an ODI to hand them a 9-wicket win in the 5th match and a 3-1 victory in the series. Jamaica's Football Federation says it's monitoring sprint legend Usain Bolt's efforts at becoming a professional footballer and is willing to select him for Reggae Boys duty once he proves his worth. That's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport around the clock, subscribe to CarlinNews.com. For more of our programming, log on to CaribVision.tv and check us out on our YouTube channel. We'll be back here again tomorrow. But from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching. Do have yourselves a good night.